Donald James says, would you go on Rogan? Honestly, I don't know. And I'm saying this because I think there are like 20 people ahead of me that should go on there before I'm ever even invited on. I have no illusions about my place in this world. Like I'm not that big of a YouTuber compared to some other people. But even apart from that, like if I were honestly, I'll be honest. If I were to get an invite, I would randomly, which would be weird. I don't think I would ever get one. But if I were to be invited, I would ask him to have on some other people first. I would tell him to have on people like, I don't know, Sam Cedar, Hassan, maybe Vosh, have on some journalists like Luke Savage, who I think is a fantastic writer. People like Owen Higgins, who I have had on the show as well. I don't know. Check out like guests that I've had on the show, like actual journalists. Have those people on. Walker Bregman, another one. Like there are people that are. This shows you how disjointed or divided his show really is, because he's had on no actual like left wing voices except for, and I'm talking about like thinkers, people that are well known in the space, people like Cornel West that he had on him had him on once. Bernie Sanders, of course, running for president, but had him on. And yes, he deserves credit for having them on, but that was like 3 years ago. And yes, he's had on, Kyle Kalinske, Pacman, Abby Martin, and some other people. But in terms of like left-wing intellectuals, he's only had on Cornel West. And there should be, in terms of like, look at people that write for Jacobin, people that write for the American Prospect, people that write for the Daily Poster, like David Sirota, he should be on that show. Like there are a lot of people that should be ahead of me. So if I were to be invited, I would, bring those suggestions first before I'm invited on, because I just wouldn't feel right, honestly, to be on that platform when I think a lot of other people that I rely on for my reporting deserve to be on that show before I am. Mehdi Hassan, another would be a great guest. And yes, somebody mentioned Brian Holmes here. Sam Cedar shits on Rogan almost every day. Like, I'm aware that like the logistics of it or the likelihood of it, not all that likely for him to invite someone on who shits on him all the time. But if he were open-minded, and it's not like, you bring up Sam here. It's not like he just randomly shits on Rogan. He'll bring up points that are wrong and refute them, just like anyone else does. Like I've done, like Hassan has done, like I don't know, whoever, Vosh, like Kyle Kalinske. He hasn't really, maybe a couple times, but like Mike Figueredo, like we've refuted Rogan's points, with objective reality. Like if he's offended by that, that's his problem. But like we don't do it maliciously. At least I don't do it maliciously. Maybe some people do it, blindly and maliciously. Like I'm very clear about having once been a viewer of his show, and I stopped watching because the show became unwatchable. Just guest after guest of bullshit. Just the most ridiculous people. And the last episode I watched was the one at the beginning of the pandemic when he had on that doctor that I referenced in the previous video, where he had on an epidemiologist who, it was actually a great podcast. It was like an actual information-filled episode of what COVID-19 may mean. This is like back in March 2020, the very beginning of this whole thing. What it may mean, what may happen. It was very informative. It was a great discussion. That was the last full episode I've listened to, because even by that point, Rogan had on a lot of mostly right-wing figures in terms of his political discussions and very few left-wing figures. And, since then I'd catch like, maybe clips of like Kyle's appearance or whoever else was on since then. But I don't know. It's just, he seems to have been unwilling or afraid to engage people on the left, because a lot of us have criticized him. But, you have to be willing to understand when you're wrong. And he has apparently been willing to understand that. He put out a video apologizing for some of the shit he has said. So he should be able to grow and, be a man and have some people on that are willing to challenge some of the crap he has spread and the people that he has platformed on his massive platform.